Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
This is no different other than the fact that we're playing one of the elite teams, not only in our conference, but in the country.
You just got to do a better job of making the routine play behind our pitching staff and not putting ourselves in the type of position that we put ourselves in.
The home stretch of the college baseball season is here, the home stretch of your week, really the back stretch, the finish line of your week here on Sports Talk. Kevin McCrary holding down the fort in studio tonight. Professor Tom Hayes has the night off. Phil Kornbluth traveling. He may join us momentarily when he gets to Atlanta, where he's setting up shop in our Sports Talk mobile satellite studio in Atlanta as he makes his way out there. I'll be making my way from our studios here on Main Street, high above Main Street in downtown Columbia, over to Founders Park, where you heard Chad Holbrook say it's just another weekend. It's not just another weekend. That's what a coach has to say. This is anything but just another weekend for the USC baseball team. They have the second-ranked Texas A&M Aggies in town. They have the SEC championship on the line. They have a national seed on the line, a lot on the line for the Gamecocks. So it is not just another weekend. They can make a big, big statement. Really, if they win this series, I think they will clinch a top 8 national seed unless they just go into Tuscaloosa next week and completely stumble and then go into the SEC tournament and fall on their face. There's still quite a bit of baseball to play, even though we are in the final week of the season, really starting now. They'll start early next week, Thursday, Friday, Saturday series, then into the conference tournaments the following week. But the Gamecocks right where they want to be in terms of tied atop the SEC standings with Florida, in terms of being projected as a national seed, but they have a big, big challenge against a very good Texas A&M team. We got a great show for you. We have a lot to discuss and talk about, a lot of things on my mind. I haven't been here in a few days, so I have to get a few things off my chest that I want to talk about. We can see what's on your mind. If you want to join me tonight, 800-956-7266 is the toll-free number. Reach out, grab a line, tell me what's on your mind. If you don't prefer the telephone thing and want to use the written word, if you have a more lengthy comment, you can hit me up on email, talkback@sportstalksc.com. If you want to keep it to 140 characters or less, find us on Twitter @sportstalksc, or you can tweet at me directly at KMac-must-die. I mean, it's worth it just to type in @KMac-must-die for some people. I think they only follow me so they can say @KMac-must-die. But both of those Twitter handles will get you to us tonight and every night on Sports Talk. We will have a lot to get into recruiting-wise to update you on. Even though Kornbluth is not here, I do have a few recruiting nuggets that I will do my best with full enthusiasm, I promise, to pass along to you. We will keep you up to date on the baseball games. Clemson, they're out of conference this weekend, so not as much pop for the Tigers, but still important. All these games are important for Clemson with their RPI very strong. They want to finish strong. I think Clemson is definitely in the tournament, and if they finish strong against Notre Dame and have a strong showing in the ACC tournament, they might be able to play themselves into playing at home. Maybe. I'm not predicting that right now, but the Tigers with that high RPI, that's going well for them. The thing that's going to hurt them is their conference record. For those interested in such things, the lineup is out for USC and Texas A&M. The Gamecocks will a few interesting things. John Jones, who we all know is struggling. John Jones has not been able to get out of the funk. As hot as he was at the beginning of the season, he's equally cold now. He's still hitting .291, and that's not a terrible batting average by any stretch. But when you think about the fact that he was hitting about 600 after the first 3 weeks of the season, you knew that wasn't going to happen. But you think, all right, he's still going to hit about 320, 330. But he has really struggled. And Chad Holbrook was talking yesterday about where to put him in the lineup. And the obvious thing would be move him out of the lineup or move him down at bare minimum. But he made the point, moving him down, he's not going to get anything to hit down there. If he's around Alex Destino and Dom Thompson-Williams, people can't pitch around him. He's going to get something to hit. And as he put it, opponents still respect John Jones, despite the fact that he's scuffling. And Jones is a dangerous hitter. And I was talking to a former Gamecock player a couple of weeks ago. Despite the struggles, he said Jones is still capable of taking any pitch if a guy makes a mistake and punishing you for it. And Holbrook knows that, and he said he's going to go down to the last at-bat with John Jones. So he's batting second tonight behind Gene Cone. And he'll get some pitches there at that number 2 hole, no doubt about it, because no one's going to work around John Jones to get to Alex Destino or Don Thompson-Williams. So we'll see. What the problem with Jones has been the off-speed stuff. The breaking pitches have just torn him to shreds. But Gene Cone, of course, leading off. Then John Jones, Alex Destino in the 3 hole. Dom Thompson-Williams will bat 4th. Jonah Bride, Madison Stokes. Chris Colon will catch tonight. LT Tobert is batting 8th, and Marcus Mooney in that 9 hole. Mooney had a great series against Kentucky. He was on base a lot in that series against the Wildcats. Of course, Clark Schmidt will get the start on the mound. 9-1, 2.37. Texas A&M, if you're not familiar with them, good. That's not a shock to anybody. They're ranked 2nd in the country. They're 37-10. Looking at their stats, especially offensively, they're hitting .320 as a team. To contrast that, the Gamecocks are hitting .288. They've scored 347 runs, about 50 more than the Gamecocks at .297. 530 hits. They do a little bit of everything. There's not a glaring weakness when you look at them. And you look at their pitching, it's solid. They have a team ERA right around 3. Just not a lot of holes on this team. And certainly top to bottom, very, very good. I don't think they have the talent top to bottom of the Florida team that was in Columbia a few weeks ago, but they're every bit as dangerous, probably 1 through 9 in that order. So the Gamecocks will have their hands full. They're going to have to score some runs. They're going to have to break out of whatever funk they've been in here. And baseball, sometimes that works out well for you. They are definitely due. Some guys are definitely doing that lineup to come up with a big hit. And despite the fact that they've scuffled offensively for the better part of 2 weeks or so, maybe longer, depending on how far back you want to go, they're still okay. And I'll say this again. I say it over and over. Anybody that's been following us on Twitter or keeping up with anything that I've been saying, it's crazy. I've never spent more time defending a program and a coach and a team that is currently in the top 10 in every major poll, that is currently leading its conference, one of the best conferences in college baseball. And still, for whatever reason, every time the Gamecocks fall behind or lose a game, everybody wants to jump off the ship. They should have beat Kentucky on Sunday. They had that game, and they didn't finish it out. It wasn't because of any stupid coaching decision. They just didn't execute with a runner on third and nobody out when they had 3 strikeouts. They didn't hold on to a lead late when they were up a run. They just didn't close. That happens. But despite everything, despite John Jones going into a huge slump, giving up solo homers a lot over the past 3 weeks and letting some leads get away, they're still right there. Everything's right there for them. So it's a big season. And this whole notion of, well, we got to see what happens in the postseason. Of course, you have to see what's going to happen in the postseason. But that being said, don't let that take away from the regular season ride. I mean, college baseball is a long season, 56 games. I think you enjoy it. I think you enjoy the ride. And This is to me, a typical South Carolina baseball season. 37-11. This team is going to win 40-plus games this year. They're going to be in the tournament. Even if they lose this weekend, lose next weekend, and don't have a big showing in the SEC tournament, they're probably going to be at least playing at home in a regional. They wouldn't be a national seed. But this is your typical South Carolina baseball season. They have really good pitching. They have good pitching depth. It's a team that could make a run. Now, they could lose a regional, certainly. But they have all the makings of a really good baseball team, and they've proven that over the course of the season. So they are a good team. All the Holbrook haters and the program haters at South Carolina are just they need to relax. And I say that because I'm going to be at the game tonight, and I don't know that I'm going to have time to just fight everybody off on Twitter. Sometimes I miss like 2 innings of ball fighting people off on Twitter. I think some people have kind of realized how silly it's going to be to continue that path of knocking Chad Holbrook and knocking a team that's in first place. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. So I'm looking forward to the weekend out at Founders Park. Should be a heck of a series. I mean, anytime college baseball can be showcased like this, we're spoiled. Now, we are spoiled in this state. Clemson's on the road, a rare I don't know how this ended up happening for the Tigers, how they ended up playing a non-conference series. Okay, that's fine. That's not out of the ordinary, but on the road against Georgia Southern. The Tigers lost their first midweek game against the College of Charleston. Now, that's Monty Lee's old school. Now, based on some fan logic, there's probably some people out there that are going to think maybe Monty Lee lost that game on purpose. Since that's his alma mater, he's probably biased for the College of Charleston, right? Because that's his school. That's what I hear this all the time. It's all about where you went to school. I'm sure some Clemson fans probably think Dabo lost to Alabama on purpose because his heart's with Alabama. It probably didn't feel right for him to beat them and cost his alma mater a national championship. I kid, of course. But a rare non-conference road series for Clemson, one that they need to win. It goes without saying. Then they close out with Notre Dame. Clemson has a very high RPI. And now that Kral's in their starting rotation, and he'll get the ball on Saturday, it's TBA on Sunday, they have a chance to make some noise. If Kral, who Monty Lee continues to say is one of the best pitchers in baseball, he has great stuff, Clemson could be dangerous. They have the best player in college baseball, if you ask me. Somebody tell me somebody better than Seth Beer. Tell me somebody that's better than Seth Beer. He's getting national attention. Now, some of the national scouts are saying that if he was draft eligible, he could be a top 5 pick. And Clemson gets him for 2 more years. Lucky Monty Lee there. And an assist to Jack Leggett, who actually had got the commitment from Seth Beer to begin with. But big stuff there for the Tigers landing Seth Beer, and they struggled a bit in conference play, though they're playing better of late with wins over NC State and Florida State back-to-back. They're playing well when you want to, and that was a setback against Charleston. Charleston's playing a lot better now, too. They're really starting to get things going. Coach Heath down there is doing well, so it's not a terrible loss. And to only have 1 blemish in your midweek. South Carolina lost to Charleston earlier this year, too. It happens. You want to minimize the damage in the midweek if you want to be a contender for a host regional, national seed. Clemson's not in the mix for national seed anymore. But with that high RPI and a strong finish, if they can win that series against, let's say they sweep Georgia Southern and they win that series against the Notre Dame Fighting Irish next week at Clemson, and they go to the ACC tournament where you're guaranteed 3 games. Remember, the ACC tournament, it's pool play. So you're guaranteed 3 games no matter what. You can lose the first 2, you get that third. So that can work out well when you're trying to play for a national seed or you're trying to play to get in the tournament maybe or hosting. That's all big stuff. So Clemson has a lot of baseball ahead of them. We're going to continue here. Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network on a Friday night. TGIF. We'll be back with more in just a moment. It's Sports Talk on a Friday night, South Carolina Radio Network. Kevin McCrary holding it down in our Columbia studios on Main Street. We like to say Sports Talk is the Main Street of sports, talking anything and everything that's pertinent and relevant here in the state of South Carolina. Glad you're with us wherever you have us dialed up, dialed in around the state on one of our 30-plus great affiliates. We appreciate that. Maybe you're listening to us on online at sportstalksc.com with the listen live link there, or maybe if you're really brave, you're watching us, our video stream via Google Hangout, which is also at sportstalksc.com. And if you miss something on the show, or you want to go back and make fun of something we said, you can go back and watch archive shows there on the website. I think they go back quite a ways now. They archive them there, so you can go back and hold us accountable for predictions we make, things that we say that don't end up becoming facts. Although I think pretty much everything we say, it's the gospel. I try not to say too many things. I try not to make too many predictions on the show because it's like spoiling it. It's like if I tell you what happens in the new Star Wars movie. Han Solo dies. Oh, Carson just looked at me like, you didn't know that, did you? If you haven't seen it by now, that's what you get. See, that's a spoiler. I really just ruined it for somebody that was going to watch Star Wars. Somebody out there, I just ruined it. Maybe he didn't die. No, he does. Han Solo, he doesn't make it to the end of the Star Wars. But I don't want to do that from a sports perspective because then, you know, I could tell you how many games South Carolina is going to win, but then why would you go to them? That wouldn't be good. Will Muschamp's talking more about how many games South Carolina is going to win. We'll tell you about that story coming up, and a bizarre story about Williams-Brice Stadium and a couple of bros that made their way into Williams-Brice Stadium that I want to talk about coming up shortly. So stay tuned for that. First, I want to update the progress at the TPC Sawgrass, the island green, no doubt wreaking havoc on people, but not Jason Day. He's still on top of the leaderboard. He's played 8 holes. So they must have hit some kind of delay if he's still playing, hasn't even made the turn. I would imagine they got one of those squalls out there in Jacksonville at some point. So he is 12 under par, and I got to think that it says in progress, so he's still playing at Ponte Vedra, but I don't know that he's going to finish before it gets dark. Jonas Blixt is in the clubhouse at 10 under par. Boo Weekley, who's won a couple of heritage titles, is at 9 under par, and he's certainly looming. Zach Johnson, former Masters champion, 2-time major winner. Zach Johnson is at 8 under par. Let's see. Bill Haas was doing well. He wasn't feeling great despite the fact that he was only 2 strokes back yesterday. He thought he was grinding it out a little bit, and boy, he must have been grinding it out because I don't see him anywhere near the top of this leaderboard anymore. And I'm scrolling down here. I see Sergio Garcia. He's playing pretty well at 6 under par in the clubhouse. But I don't – where did Haas end? There he is. He's 2 over through 10 holes today. So he's now at 5 under par. What happened at Williams-Brice Stadium? Police want your help. I'll put it that way, and I'll tell you the story coming up. So a couple of bros over the weekend decided that it might be a good idea just for kicks to bust on into Williams-Brice Stadium and apparently, according to police, grab a few items. What items that were taken, we don't know because police haven't said exactly what they took. Now, I can't believe they haven't been arrested yet, and here's why. There's a picture of these two that surveillance cameras caught, and sometimes you see these surveillance camera pictures, and news organizations, they tweet out pictures all the time, and I don't know how anybody identifies any of the people from these pictures because it's grainy. You can't make out any kind of features on the person. It's like, okay, it looks like a middle-aged white guy. I don't know who that is, but in this picture, it's pretty clear. It's like almost looks like these two took a selfie, and the one that I'm looking at. And here's the funny thing about it. Not that it's funny that somebody busted into Williams-Brice Stadium and took stuff, but if you look at the picture, one of the guys isn't wearing a shirt. So he goes in there. He's not wearing a shirt. He's shirtless. He's carrying what looks like a 12-pack of beer, maybe a case. I don't know. But he's definitely carrying some beer. He's holding something else in his hand, and then there's another guy. And that's not the funniest part. You think, oh, that's pretty funny. Guy with the shirt off in Williams-Brice Stadium, hat backwards. No, the real funny thing is he has a beard and his hat backwards, and he looks just like Steven Garcia. It's not Steven Garcia, I promise you. He's got an alibi. He's down in Tampa. It looks just like him. Now, Garcia this morning, I said it was uncanny. He didn't think it was uncanny. He didn't like the uncanny. This guy does have a little bit of a gut, and maybe Garcia didn't like that part. He also has a tattoo, a clear tattoo that it looks like, according to the WLTX story that I'm reading from, it's a Phoenix tattoo on the left side of his chest. The other guy has a shirt on with the words Lights, Camera, Champions on it. And here's the thing about the other guy with the Lights, Camera, Champions shirt. He looks just like Connor Shaw. It's not as uncanny as Steven Garcia, but if you looked at this picture at first glance, you would go, my God, Steven Garcia and Connor Shaw broke into Williams-Brice Stadium. Not that they would really have to. I mean, Connor Shaw probably has a key. I think Connor Shaw has a key to the entire city of Columbia. He can go anywhere, anytime he wants in Columbia now. He wouldn't have to break in to Williams-Brice Stadium. But these two guys go to, we've tweeted it out at sportstalksc.com. I'm reading from the WLTX.com story here, and you can get more details. And I don't know how somebody hasn't recognized these guys. It's a very clear tattoo. The one guy with the hat on backwards, that might even be a Gamecock hat. I'm not sure. I mean, this could be Gamecock on Gamecock crime. I don't know what they took. It must not have been anything of major significance. Normally, police would list all the items, so it could have just been a couple of guys clearly drinking because the guy's shirtless and carrying at least a 12-pack of beer, if not a suitcase. So maybe they went in there and took Gatorades or pictures or media guides. I don't know, but these guys busted into Williams-Brice Stadium, took a few things, and they are out on surveillance right now. So the Steven Garcia and Connor Shaw lookalikes, you better keep a low profile. You're wanted by the police right now. I've got to think, I think the over-under on an arrest being made here, I would put at less than 24 hours. I mean, these guys, maybe it's already happened and we just haven't heard about it. But those two guys are going to be very easy to pick out. And the one guy's got a tattoo. It's not like it's going to be hard for the police to ID him. Just pull up your shirt and you got the tattoo. So if you know anything, you can call Crime Stoppers, 188-CRIME-SC, I think is the number. And apparently you're eligible for a cash reward. So there you go. And maybe Will Muschamp will give you a signed football or something. Will Muschamp seems to be in a great mood. And it's this is the time of year that Muschamp's predecessor, Steve Spurrier, used to call talking season. And Muschamp's going around talking up the Gamecocks to the Gamecock Club, the Spurs Up Tour, as they're calling it. And he was in Florence last night. And he continues to take the very positive approach. And one thing that stood out with Will Muschamp, one quote when they talked about the building process and the timetable. Everybody always wants to know a timetable for a new coach, which is a fair thing. Coaches never know how to answer. They'll usually say, there is no timetable. We're just trying to get better. Spurrier, when he first arrived, He didn't talk about a timetable. He made it clear what his goals were. And in the first few years, he said their goals were to win more than they lost. That was Steve Spurrier when he first took over the South Carolina program. And I think you could argue that he took over a program that was probably in about the same kind of shape as the one that Muschamp is inheriting. It's come full circle, but Muschamp is not taking that same approach. When he was asked what the number of years it was going to take to get things turned around, he said, I have a 1-year timetable. My dad always told me a story about a man that went fishing with a 12-inch pan, and he caught a fish that was too big, so he couldn't put it in the 12-inch pan. We're not thinking that way. Let's go to Atlanta every year. If we fall short of that, we're going to go back and reset ourselves and say, okay, what do we need there? I'm trying to figure out that 12-inch pan story. So he didn't keep the fish because it wouldn't fit in the pan. I'm going to have to think that one over a little bit. I'm sure there's a life metaphor in there somewhere. I'm just missing it. But Muschamp, he is not setting the bar low for year one. For a team that won 3 games, he has a pass. I mean, this is the one time where he has the pass where he could easily say, you know, yeah, we've got some good players. I think we have a good foundation. I think we're going to play hard. Teams are going to they better bring their lunch pail when they play us. They're going to be in for a dogfight, and maybe the ball bounced our way, but we just want to get better. We've got a lot to prove after 3 wins. No, he's setting the bar high from the jump. And apparently when he said this, the crowd gave him an immediate ovation. That's red meat for Gamecock fans. That's what they want to hear. Now, come September, they're going to want to see the results on the field. Then you're going to have to go out and do it. It's easy to talk about it. It's a little tougher to do. And I think Will Muschamp is going to be fine at South Carolina. I know some people have questioned, maybe still do question that hire, but I think Will Muschamp will do a fine job, and certainly he's going to take recruiting up a notch, and that's what it's all about. Certainly he's going to take the defense up a notch, and that's what, at the end of the day, wins you football games. That's what carries you in the Southeastern Conference and in college football in general. We can talk about Clemson and everything that Clemson's done over the past 2 years, and it's been remarkable. But really, with all their great offensive players and even Deshaun Watson, it's the defense that has won the big games for Clemson. It's the defense that has gotten the Tigers where they are. At Louisville last year, game that I was at, Clemson had to hold on with its defense when Louisville was driving, trying to tie the game with a field goal or win it with a touchdown late. The defense made the stop. Remember Notre Dame? I mean, Notre Dame's right there. They're going for 2. Clemson stones them on the goal line. How many times have we seen Clemson stone a team on the goal line? Louisville, the year before last, they were on the 1-yard line, and Clemson stopped them there to hang on and win the football game. Defense is what wins it for you. That defense shut down Oklahoma, a really good Oklahoma offense. And that's what you have to build around. That's when Clemson took that next step, it was with defense. That's what's changed, because Taj Boyd and Sammy Watkins and C.J. Spiller and Aaron Kelly and Nuke Hopkins, all those guys, they lit it up on offense, but they couldn't stop anybody when they had to. They brought in Brent Venables, took their defense to the next level, recruited some great athletes, some playmakers, and off they went. That's the model. And when South Carolina was winning games, they were doing it with their defense. Steve Spurrier, for all of his fun and gun reputation at Florida, cock and fire, whatever he called it at South Carolina, Connor Shaw, Marcus Lattimore, Alshon Jeffrey, Bruce Ellington. But at the end of the day, it was those cats on defense that won 11 games a year, carried them. Now, I'm not saying the offense didn't do anything. They had some great players on offense, but it was the defense that made those plays when they had to. Melvin Ingram forcing a strip and Clowney picking it up and scoring. We all know about the Clowney hit in the Outback Bowl. Defense that turned games around for South Carolina. We're going to hit a break here. Some on the football topic, because I got football in my mind. How about a little Vegas point spreads coming out for the openers for Clemson and South Carolina? Are they favored, underdogs? We'll tell you coming up.
Hello, hello, hello. Hello, 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 1, 2. 1, 2. Check one, check one, check one, check one, check, check. One, check one, check, check one, check, check. Check one. Check one, check one. Check that's right. The default is the microphone DT. Microphone headphones. Check one, check. Check one, check. Say something to me, Carson. You can talk to me so I can make sure I'm hearing. Okay, 1, 2, 1, 2. Say something to me, please. Hello, 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 hello.
Hello, can you hear me?
There you go. Okay. You hear me okay?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
Good, 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 good.
Does that
Okay.
work?
Yeah.
All right. Whew. Hold tight.
Oh, man.
No, he can't hear you through that hangout on that. I think you pretty much have to chat with him or either turn your mic up. That's the only way you can talk to him through the hangout. Oh yeah, it would be producer mic though, which would be 4 and then B. Yeah.
One, two, 1, 2, 1, 2. Check, check. Whew.
Cruising through a Friday evening here on Sports Talk. Kevin McCrary in our Columbia studios. If you want to join us, 800-956-7266. Open lines for you. Reach out, grab a line, tell us what's on your mind. Also joining us now through the magic of radio from our satellite studio in Hotlanta, Phil Kornblut has made his way to the show.
Finally. Tell you what,
It was a crazy ride from Columbia to Atlanta. I advise anybody heading out into Georgia from I-20 in South Carolina, be prepared for long delays. 3 different lane closures between Augusta and Greensboro, Georgia. Cost you about an hour because traffic backs up for miles and miles. So we're here, got a little family event this weekend, so we came on into Atlanta to spend time with the group, and glad we can be with you for a little while. K-Mac, you're going to head over to baseball shortly, aren't you?
I am. I'm looking forward to Texas A&M and South Carolina over at Founders Park.
Yeah, should be a great atmosphere. You know, they've had so many weekends this year against top 10 teams. This will be the, 4th opponent they've played ranked in the top 10 when they've played them. Let's see, they've played Ole Miss was ranked in the top 10 when they played them. Vanderbilt, Florida, and now Texas A&M. You know, I know Florida's been the highest ranked team, and everyone says they've got the most talent, K-Mac, but this Texas A&M team, top to bottom, looks really, really good. This might be the best team they've played.
I think that, top to bottom, they're pretty good. That Florida team, and I haven't put my eyeballs on Texas A&M yet, but that Florida team was really, really good, and they had so many great pitchers, and I think that Florida team probably has more pro talent, draft talent on their roster, but Texas A&M, well, we were talking about this earlier in the show. You try to find some kind of weakness. You go, okay, where do they struggle? Okay, they have a 320 batting average. Well, they probably don't hit for a lot of power. And then you say, okay, they've hit 45 home runs. Well, maybe they don't steal a lot of bases. Well, they're 59 of 79. Oh, I bet you they struggle somewhere with pitching. Nope, their ERA is 3.07. I mean, they do everything really well. And you look at their lineup and you try to find guys that look like they're going to struggle at the bottom of the lineup, the top of the lineup, the middle of the lineup. They're good everywhere.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And they don't strike out a lot. They have discipline. As you mentioned, they can hit with power. They can steal a base. They play excellent defense. They're right up there with South Carolina and Florida with the best defense in the league. Their pitching is strong. Now, we're making it sound like the Gamecocks are not going to have a chance, but if they're on their game and playing well, they'll have a chance to win these games at home. South Carolina has been exceptionally good at home this year, but they're going to have to, top to bottom, get better pitching than what they got last weekend at Kentucky. They gave up in all their games, if I remember correctly, they gave up pretty good number of runs. And Webb struggled on Saturday. They've got to have 3 solid outings from their starters, and then the formula for them is get solid outings from the starters, get into the 7th inning or so, and then let Johnson and Reagan do their thing at the back end to take them home.
Yeah, and they have Widener that's coming on, so he'll give them another arm out of the bullpen at some point this season. The Gamecocks, you're right, they're not anything to say that this is a huge mismatch for them. They've only lost once at home this season, and that was a game that in the SEC, I should say, but that was Florida, and they had Florida on the ropes that game. They should have probably won that game. I mean, they're up in the 9th inning with Reagan on the mound, and Reagan gave up 2 solo homers, and they ended up losing and won the next night. They haven't lost a series at home all year. They've been very, very good at Founders Park. They've been calling it Fill Up Founders Park this week. They're trying to get the fans out there. And
should they have to do that at South Carolina?
Well, I don't know. I mean, there were some tickets available last I saw, and Jack Wynkoop is pitching tonight in Columbia, but he's not pitching at Founders Park. He's pitching over at Spirit Communications Park. And I don't know if that's been a factor. I'd be interested to see if Ray Tanner feels like they've lost any of their crowd to that crowd.
I cannot believe a Gamecock fan, as much as you might love Jack Wynkoop, would pass up an opportunity to see South Carolina and Kentucky and Texas A&M, 2 top 10 teams playing for the SEC regular season championship, kind of on the line in a national top seeding, to go watch Jack Wynkoop pitch in a minor league game.
I agree. I don't know that it but maybe some of those casual fans that just like baseball that would normally go out to a game like this would buy those tickets, scoop them up, the standing room only tickets, now go, well, I can, for the same price, I can go and watch minor league ball, professional ball, and it's a different experience. So because the South Carolina was the only gig in town, you're going to maybe get people that aren't Gamecock fans that are just baseball fans that want to go out and watch a game, but now they have another option.
How's he doing?
He's in there.
Is he in there? Is he kicking or anything?
I'm starting to.
Is he? Boy, Maddie looks gorgeous. Just cute. She can be look like a little girl now. Huh? You too? Yeah. Yeah. And she's looking like a little teenager. I can't wait till I can play with her a little bit.
Corn is here, so recruiting's coming up shortly. Also, BJ Mackey, former Gamecock and future, soon to be really near future Hall of Famer. We'll talk to him in our full Monty segment, talking a little NASCAR. Corn, I know you being, well, not quite the degenerate gambler that I am, but you'll be interested in the latest lines. Now, the offshore lines have already been out for a little while, but now Vegas has put out lines for the openers. So we'll take a peek at where they have USC and Clemson in terms of their favorites and our underdogs. And I will say that both are favorites. Corn, not a big shock there. The Gamecocks on the road, though, according to the sports book. Which one is it? South Point Casino in Vegas. They put the Gamecocks as a 5.5-point favorite over Vandy in the September 1st opener. That's interesting.
That's more of an indictment on Vandy, I think, than it is a credit to USC because, I mean, let's face it, not even the gamblers know what they expect from USC, but they pretty much know what they expect from Vanderbilt.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be tempted to take Vandy right there and take the points in an opener that could be sloppy, although I don't know the first thing about – they were awful last year, Vanderbilt. They only have one direction to go, but I would think their defense wouldn't be bad with Mason, and it seems to be the early impression that it'll have the defense at least a little better, and they have some experience at quarterback. But Five Dimes, the offshore book out of Costa Rica, had the Gamecocks as a 3-point favorite when they did their opening line. As for Clemson, they are an 8.5-point favorite over Auburn, according to South Point.
Well, you got to factor in that it's going to be at Auburn, so you're going to give Auburn some credit for the home field there. An SEC home field and a home opener is big. And that's a big nod to Clemson and the expectations for the Tigers and the respect the odds makers give Clemson for their talent, starting with Deshaun Watson, feeling like they can go into an SEC place like Auburn and be favored by 8.5. Yeah, that's shown a lot of respect for Clemson. And the thing about Auburn is they still don't know yet who their starting quarterback's going to be.
They have two. They have two. You know what they say about if you have two?
Yeah. I mean, and we don't know how good either one or any of the three that competed in the spring are going to be. They think they're going to be much better on defense. Kevin Steele going in there, and I know a lot of snickering around the state especially from Clemson fans, but I respect Kevin Steele, and I think he's a really good football coach and a good defensive coordinator. And he's going to have a little extra chip. He won't admit it, I'm sure, but he'll have a little extra chip on his shoulder getting ready for this game. And one thing about Auburn, they have good defensive players, and Carl Lawson is back and healthy, and they will have a good defense and a good defensive game plan against Clemson. Whether or not that'll be enough to slow them down remains to be seen.
Yeah, they're going to have to score a bunch. They better have it. The Gus Bus better be rolling on turbo with extra diesel. That's the only way that they're going to have to win a shootout if they're going to beat Clemson, because they ain't going to stop Clemson. They're not going to improve that much on that defense.
I would agree wholeheartedly.
Yeah. Top of the hour. I know you got some recruiting, Corn. I think you raced to Atlanta, probably drove in the emergency lane just to get there in time to drop some recruiting on a Friday.
Oh, okay. Yep, this is a pretty rug, Andrew. Yeah, pretty rug. Softens the fall too.
Hi, Shams. Oh, my cousin Carlisle's here, Shams.
Check, 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 check. Check one, check one. Shams. 1 2 1 2 1 2. Okay. Okay. Is he leaving?
Yes. There you go. Shin? Okay, let's see. No, I think the shin might be in your hand somewhere.
Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
All right, we're back on Sports Talk, hour number 2. They are underway at Founders Park. Clark Schmidt's first pitch was a strike. We'll keep you posted on all of the action. Clemson and Georgia Southern also underway, and we'll give you an update there momentarily. But a busy hour, Corn, coming up here, and I know that you want to kick it off with a little recruiting.
Yeah, I heard what you said going into the break, and I did feel the need to get here so this can be delivered in a professional manner.
Hard, because I was going to do it as unprofessionally as I possibly could.
You have to give recruiting the respect it deserves. I don't believe you give it that respect. That's why I drove much above the posted speed limits and cut off many grandmothers driving on 285 to get here in time to do this.
Very nice.
So let's do it. Defensive end M.J. Webb, Madison, Georgia. I drove right through his place on the way here. Plenty of recruiters have been through to check him out this spring. USC, Clemson among the offers, and he thinks highly of both. USC, Clemson, LSU, Notre Dame, Georgia Tech, Ole Miss, Georgia, Tennessee, Florida, Kentucky, Michigan, and Michigan State have been by. USC defensive line coach Lance Thompson was by to check on Webb and continues to push for him to consider South Carolina strongly. And he says he's pretty big on South Carolina. In fact, he's going to visit USC on Wednesday. Wants to see the campus, get a closer look at the football facilities. He's going to Auburn for Big Cat weekend. He's also going to visit Ole Miss and Mississippi this summer. He already spent a full day at Clemson back in April, about 9 hours, going over the campus and the academics, and he's in touch with Marion Hobby and Tony Elliott. And so the Tigers are also very much on his mind right now. No favorite for him at this point. Brent Venables of Clemson was up in New Jersey recently to check on defensive back Marquise Bell of Bridgeton. Tigers have offered, along with Florida, Georgia, Penn State, Michigan, North Carolina, Virginia Tech, Rutgers, Temple, NC State, Tennessee, Ole Miss, and others. He likes Clemson, sees it as a place where he could step in and play early, considering the Tigers' situation in the secondary. Ohio State, Maryland, Rutgers, and Michigan have been through as well. Tennessee and Ole Miss are his most recent offers. He's also been to Michigan, Penn State, Maryland, Rutgers, Temple, Florida, and NC State this spring. No favorites for him. Former USC commitment receiver Stephen Guidry of Hines Junior College in Mississippi still has interest in the Gamecocks despite decommitting. He is hearing from Alabama, LSU, Iowa State, Mississippi State, and Louisiana Lafayette. He said he hasn't heard from the Gamecocks since his decommitment, but he still has them on his list at this time. Clemson offered 2018 offensive lineman Tank Jenkins of Montgomery, Alabama, and 2018 offensive lineman James Ohamba of Stockbridge, Georgia. And I got a few more notes for you. We'll drop those in on you when we come back. Also, B.J. Mackey coming up after the break.
Baseball update, and then Corn can finish up recruiting, and then BJ Mackey on the line. We'll talk with the soon-to-be South Carolina Hall of Famer. 3-run homer for Chris Oakey, and Clemson is up to early on Georgia Southern 3-0 in the first inning, still 1 out in the top of the first, and USC gives up a walk and an error, but they do not give up a run in the first inning against Texas A&M. Scoreless as they head to the bottom of the first inning at Founders Park, Corn.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we call that an okie dokie when Okie hits a home run. Yeah. A couple more recruiting notes, and BJ can appreciate this since he was out recruiting last night. Clemson offered 2018 offensive lineman Tank Jenkins, Montgomery, Alabama, 2018 offensive lineman James Ohunba, Stockbridge, Georgia. USC target running back Chase Hayden of Collierville, Tennessee, was offered by Florida. California quarterback Braxton Burmeister committed to Arizona. It's a recommitment to Arizona. USC was one of his finalists. He had visited USC back in the spring. He is a guy that Coach Roper knew and offered. And Clemson has offered defensive end Dorian Hardy out of the state of New Jersey. There you go. With recruiting on this Friday night, of course, recruiting, it never rests. Just ask BJ Mackey. You can check it out on our website, sportstalksc.com, and on Twitter, use the hashtag #STRecruiting. And let's welcome into Sports Talk one of the all-time great athletes from our state, of course, the all-time leading scorer in basketball at the University of South Carolina, currently an assistant coach at Charleston Southern, and on Monday night, he will be officially a state Hall of Famer as he goes into the South Carolina Athletic Hall of Fame. B.J. Mackey. Good evening, sir. How are you?
How are you guys doing?
We are doing great. Thank you for joining us. Congratulations in advance on your honor of Monday night. You know, this just makes us all feel so old because, you know, we remember when you were just a little kid, and now you're old enough to be going into the State Hall of Fame, and that is certainly something to be proud of as you're recognized for both your achievements on and off the court.
I definitely appreciate it. It's a great honor, and I'm very humble to even be nominated for this type of achievement. And I'm just excited about all my family and friends coming in town, former coaches and teammates. It's going to be a great evening.
You know, you'll have to say a little something up there in front of everybody, an acceptance speech. A couple of things. Number one, will it be an emotional time for you? And number two, will there be a particular message that you want to deliver?
You sound like my wife. I don't know. You know, I didn't know when I had my jersey retirement that I would have so many emotions that go through me. But I do understand that Coach Willie Jeffries, he'll put you on the clock, so we have about 4 or 5 minutes. So it's just a great honor. And it's the message that I want everybody to understand. It's not just about me, but it's about us, people that have helped me get here, and have helped me through tough times, both on and off the floor. My family, friends, mom and dad, my wife, my son. It's about us and people who helped me get to this point. You know, coaches and former teammates who've made sacrifices for me. That's truly what it's ultimately about on this special night.
When you reflect on your playing days, what made you a great player?
That's also in my speech as well. My family, everybody always understands, and you know, Mr. Cornblue, how I feel about my family. I was scared to let my family down. You know, that's why I worked so hard, both on and off the floor, and I played just as hard for what was on the front of my jersey as I did for what was on the back.
Where did you get the little mean streak? And I think I'm paying you a compliment when I say that. Where did you get the little mean streak from that you played with and carried with you, you know, in the locker room or whenever necessary? Where'd you get that?
I have to say I got that from my mom and my dad. You know, I always wanted to play with a chip on my shoulder, and I always knew I had to play with a chip on my shoulder because I wasn't the dominating athlete to go through the lane and dunk and make these moves to ooh and ah fans from time to time. I had to play with an edge, and I think that ultimately got me over the hump to play with. My dad always talked about play with the eye of the tiger, play with that killer instinct, and play like it's going to be my last game. And I always wanted to do that out on the floor.
Mm-hmm. Talking with B.J. Mackey, former USC star basketball player, going into the South Carolina Athletic Hall of Fame on Monday night. The ceremonies will be at the Columbia Convention Center. So the development of your game, who did you base that on? Somebody? Did you copy somebody's skill sets? How did you develop what became your game?
I really liked Isaiah Thomas when I was coming up. He was definitely somebody who I really looked at and studied a whole lot. That's why wore number 11 in high school and wanted to wear number 11 in college, but the great John Roach retired that number. So I couldn't get that, and that's why I got number 3. But I just always studied the game, and I think that helped me get over the hump. Just with playing against stronger athletes, quicker athletes, just studied the game and tried to develop my game each and every time I got out on the floor, especially during the summertime, to really just to help develop my game and make me better so I could be a better player and be a better teammate to help my team win.
Mm-hmm. Having the opportunity to play first for Tim Whipple and then for Eddie Fogler, what did that mean to you as a basketball player?
You don't really understand what that means until you get into coaching and it's all said and done with. How I've been very fortunate to play for some of the best coaches in the state of South Carolina, and Coach Fogler, X's and O's, people will tell you across the board, one of the best coaches in the country, especially at that time, and playing for Coach Klemp and Coach Lowry and Coach Williams and Coach Gates during the summertime when AAU was AAU basketball. You don't realize how fortunate you are to take the knowledge that those guys had, their X's and O's, and their knowledge about life in general. It speaks volume for those guys. And as I look back on it, I try to take what those guys gave me and apply to the guys that I'm coaching today.
Talking with B.J. Mackey, assistant coach at Charleston Southern, going into the South Carolina Athletic Hall of Fame on Monday night. What's your, on the court, best memory from South Carolina?
Best memory from South Carolina? Oh, man, it's been a lot of great memories at South Carolina. But, I mean, you have to go back to the Kentucky game when we beat Kentucky and we thought we pretty much had arrived and played one of the top elite programs in history of basketball, and we won that game, and just the excitement the city and the state had in our university, that definitely ranks up there. And of course, when we beat Kentucky to win the SEC outright, and it was just a great occasion when I was honored at my jersey retirement, and all of my coaches and family and friends were there. I mean, those were probably the two or three best highlights. So many great memories at the university. It's just great memories, man. It's great.
Yeah. Do you still hear much from your former teammates from back in the day?
All the time. We talk about basketball all the time. Me and Melvin's supposed to really get together and talk about some X's and O's when they come to team camp. And, you know, so many of us are still involved, whether it be Herbert Lee with his program that he's helped develop kids and help their skill development, or other guys coaching high school basketball around the state. We all keep in touch. We all keep in touch with each other.
All right, hang on a second, BJ. Going to hit a quick break. Come back with you for just a couple of more minutes. BJ Mackey, our guest here on Sports Talk. We'll be right back.
All right, quick update, and I'll toss it back to Corn so we can finish up with BJ. And USC did not score in their half of the first. They had runners on second and third with 2 outs, and Jonah Bride struck out looking. Watch 6 pitches go by him. 3 of them were balls. 3 of them were strikes. Corn.
All right, and Clemson continues to lead Georgia Southern by a 3-0 count. Back for a couple more minutes with BJ Mackey. Did you play any other sports in high school as you were coming along? Football, baseball, track. Did you do anything else like that?
I didn't. I actually thought about playing football, and at the time when I was in college, Brad Scott asked me to come out a couple times and play football.
Huh.
But I didn't ever play any other sport when I was in high school. Of course, I tried to look at everything and Pop Warner football and baseball. I had a whole lot of energy when I was a little kid. My mom even put me in karate.
What position did Brad Scott see you playing in football?
He told me he saw me playing maybe wide receiver or even maybe strong safety. I wouldn't mind coming across and hitting somebody from time to time.
Yeah, we know that. Now, real quick, Justin, going into his senior year, cannot believe he's reached the end of the line for him. What do you think about his career at South Carolina? As you take a step back, maybe look at it from both a coaching and a father's standpoint. How do you feel about what he's done?
I think Justin has done great at USC. I like to tell everybody, we didn't ever say that Justin was going to be a professional basketball player, or Justin was going to average this, or Justin was going to average that. Justin was going to be Justin. I think slowly but surely over the last few years, Justin has developed. I think Coach Martin will tell you Justin has developed as a player and as a person, and as one of the leaders in the locker room. And one of Justin's main goals was to help put South Carolina back to where they were respected and winning. And right now they've done that. And Justin has been a very good ambassador in the community. And he's on board to graduate, and he wants to go to law school. And I'm very proud, and we're very proud of Justin and what he's done and what he's accomplished.
Well, I tell you what, we could not be happier for you and your family, because you have been the epitome of what a student athlete is all about, especially one raised and reared right here in South Carolina, deciding to stay home and play for your home state, hometown school, and helping to get them back to prominence at that time, and then coming back to the state to coach at Charleston Southern and doing a great job with Barclay Radebaugh there. We pat you on the back and congratulate you for all the great things you've done. Remember, keep it to 4 minutes on Monday night, and that'll be appreciated too.
I'm definitely going to do that. I appreciate you guys. You guys do a great job, and being growing up in South Carolina and winning championships and doing what I've done at the University of South Carolina, I couldn't have drew it up any better.
All right, BJ. We got to run to a break. Congratulations once again. Thanks for joining us. We'll be right back.
Appreciate it, guys.
Okay. I can't hardly get my words out tonight. Now my phone's dead.
The full Monty coming up real quick. Want to update USC baseball. Clemson's still up 3-0 on Georgia Southern as they move to the second inning. And USC also in the second bottom half now. Gamecocks batting. Madison Stokes led off with a single. A botched hit and run worked out for the Gamecocks. Stokes was safe at second on a bobbled throw. So that's where he stands now with nobody out and Chris Cullen at the plate. Corn.
All right, K-Mac, thank you very much. Back here on Sports Talk, presented by South Carolina Soybean Farmers and their checkoff. Learn more at scsoybeans.org. Pork, powered by soy. It's time now for the full Monty on NASCAR. We welcome into Sports Talk Monty Dutton. His blog, of course, on NASCAR and other items is MontyDutton.com. We're up at Dover this weekend, Monty. The rain, a bit of a factor. Qualifying washed out. So Kevin Harvick, who was the fastest in the opening round of practice, 165.145, he's going to start on the pole. What does the rain mean as far as washing that track clean, and how will it affect things race day on Sunday?
Well, it depends on what happens between now and then. They successfully ran the Truck Series race that ended a few minutes ago. And depending on, they'll put plenty of rubber down if they get it in tomorrow. I think there's a slightly less chance of rain tomorrow, and there's little chance of rain on Sunday, so they'll get the race in likely. But when a racetrack doesn't have rubber down on it, it's probably a little bit worse on the concrete, like Dover has. The concrete tracks are sort of a little bit less forgiving. It's kind of like you don't have as much chance to save a car. It's kind of like when the car breaks away, goes all the way. Today they had a pretty serious crash in practice involving Danica Patrick, Tony Stewart, and Jamie McMurray. Stewart seems to be fine. Something broke. Some kind of line came loose on Patrick's car, and her car it sort of exploded into flames, and she left a bunch of fluid, and both it was just during practice, and Stewart and McMurray both got into it. McMurray his elbow was bothering afterwards, but it doesn't look like anything serious. But it brought attention. This is sort of a pet peeve of mine, because people noticed that on the front straightaway at Dover, on the outside of the track, there's no soft walls, and they made pretty hard impact. No one was hurt badly. But the pet peeve of mine is that nobody ever says a thing about that until somebody hits one.
Mm-hmm.
It's like when you go and look, you can see that. How come nobody says, everybody wrings their hands and gets all upset about it ought to be mandatory, there ought to be soft walls there, but nobody ever says one word until someone hits them.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the main thing that I thought of at the time it happened.
Unfortunately, it'll take a tragedy to get people to do something there. Why did Dover, what's the history of Dover and the concrete surface? Has it always been concrete, and why is it concrete for them, not asphalt, and why aren't there more concrete tracks?
Well, Dover and Bristol basically put down concrete many years ago because both tracks are very high banked and short, and there's a lot of, they had difficulty keeping the pavement from not wearing out and coming up. It wasn't as durable. They couldn't at that time come up with an asphalt compound that would last for very long. So they just simplified and said, well, we'll pave it in concrete. I think that Dover is a pretty good racetrack to watch. I've always enjoyed watching races there. They have, really, it's a wide track. It's very high banked in the turns, and it's even moderately banked on the straightaways. And so that's one of those tracks they say is self-cleaning, because when they have a crash, cars tend to tumble down to the bottom because of the fact it's banked all the way around. But a track that is smaller, there's sort of more centrifugal force and more pressure exerted on the pavement, and they basically just decided to try that. That's been the case for so long that they've actually had trouble with concrete and replaced the surface of there at both tracks. But the reason for concrete is that it's more durable.
Mm-hmm. Do you think with the new aerodynamic package now in play, and it'll be the first time it'll be used at Dover this weekend, the wear and tear on the drivers, especially, I don't know what the temperature is going to be like up at Dover on Sunday, but the wear and tear on the drivers because of the banking of the track, you mentioned the centrifugal force, there's more on the drivers now because of the change in the package. Is this going to take a little more wear and tear on them at a place like Dover?
Probably so, but I think that this is one of the things that I noted in my Bleacher Report column this week. I think that the thing that concerns you a little bit is that the new rules package has made the racing a little better. But earlier this year, when Brad Keselowski won a race, afterwards he talked about the fact that NASCAR needed to keep their fingers on this, because he said that, the job of NASCAR is to set standards, make the racing good, and the guys at the teams is that they work toward going faster and overcoming what NASCAR does. And I think it's a fair complaint to say that there was a new package last year that by the middle of the year, what I'm saying is that last year the quality of the racing was encouraging early in season 2, and it's kind of like the team caught up, and by the time a lot of the races got to be fairly repetitive and not all that exciting. And so I think that the warning that Keselowski issued early in the season, I think there's a little bit of pertinence to that. He said that NASCAR had best keep taking downforce away or keep eyes on it, because he said that over time, he said at the time that it would take about 6 months to a year for the teams to offset what NASCAR had achieved. And so, given the fact that last week's race wasn't a very exciting one, it was dominated by Martin Truex until he had a sort of a freak failure, and then it was dominated by Kyle Busch. There wasn't really a lot of, usually the leader was pulling away, and that's what we saw last year. Personally, I think that when you get to the level of a track like Dover, that's sort of the borderline where the aerodynamics don't mean as much. I think that places like, Bristol and Martinsville and on up to the mile tracks like Dover, New Hampshire, and Phoenix, I think that they're going to have a pretty good race regardless, because I just think that it's the intermediate, the 1.5 to 2 mile moderately banked tracks, where more races are held at those type tracks than anywhere else. But those are the tracks that the racing has been the weakest in.
Mm-hmm.
And you can actually see it in more decline, like the rest of this month is going to be at Charlotte. And probably there's no place where the decline in attendance has been most obvious than places like Charlotte and Atlanta, right in the heartland of NASCAR. And so, I think that those are the tracks where you worry too much, but I think you're going to get about the same product of a race at a place like Dover as you do a year ago when they had much larger spoilers and much more downforce.
All right, real quick here, running out of time. You've been pretty good at making your Friday picks on winners, so who do you like this weekend?
Well, they rained out qualifying. Harvick is starting out front, but Harvick won the last race at Dover, and he's on the pole because he was fastest in practice. And so I think that it's the way it is right now is actually, it might be a better barometer of who's going to be fast on Sunday because of the way qualifying is done in several rounds now. There's a little bit more chance that the guy who starts up front may not be the fastest, but those guys probably are going to be. So I think Harvick's the favorite, but I think I'll make the populist choice and say this is the week that Dale Earnhardt Jr. breaks through.
Mm-hmm. And Dale Jr. is going to start second after his practice run. Monty, as always, we thank you. Have a great racing weekend. We'll catch you next Friday.
You're welcome, Phil.
Monty Dutton, the full Monty on NASCAR. Read Monty's stuff on his blog. He writes about more than just NASCAR. Very smart guy. Writes books, too. His blog is MontyDutton.com. That's MonteDutton. MontyDutton.com. The full Monty on NASCAR. We'll be right back.
Gamecocks had another opportunity to score, Corn, in the second inning. They had a leadoff single by Stokes. He stole second and was there with 2 outs. And Marcus Mooney got a base hit to right. He tried to score and was gunned down at the plate. Don't really blame the Gamecocks for sending him there. I guess that would be Esposito trying to send him home, but he did not make it, so it's still scoreless. And John Jones, who was batting second tonight, moved up in the order to number 2, and he just struck out in the third.
Well, Chad Holbrook said during the week on more than one occasion against this Texas A&M team, it's important to take advantage of those scoring opportunities. When they get men on base, they've got to get them home. He talked about doing different things to get runs in, relying on Clark Schmidt to keep the score low, which he's doing so far. But the Gamecocks will look back, perhaps unfortunately at the end of the night and see missed opportunities might cost them. Hopefully for them that won't be the case, but you don't want to let opportunities slip away, and so far they have done just that. So South Carolina and A&M still locked up in a scoreless one over at Founders Park. Clemson in Statesboro continuing to lead Georgia Southern by a 3-1 count. We'll update some other scores for you from around the state and around the SEC and the ACC in a moment. I want to remind you to be sure to relax on and off the field with Founders Federal Credit Union, located in the heart of Gamecock Country. Founders Russell House location is available to help you with all your financial needs. Visit relaxjoinfounders.com to see if you qualify for membership. All right, let's catch everybody up on some things, K-Mac. First of all, college baseball this afternoon here in the state. VCU playing Presbyterian, and VCU comes away a 3-2 winner over the Blue Hose. VCU now 34-16. They're likely to be a tournament team. The Blue Hose at 24-25. And don't forget, remind everybody, a couple of weeks from now we'll be into tournament play, and the Big South tournament this year is going to be over at the Lexington Baseball Park. So right in the middle of the state, you'll have the Big South tournament, probably going to crown Coastal Carolina as the champion, but you never know in baseball what happens. But, going in, Coastal Carolina will certainly be the odds-on favorite to win. And if they do well here down the stretch, as we talked with Gary Gilmore last night, of course, he feels like they've got to win out to get a regional. I don't know. Their RPI is still good. They're nationally ranked, but they can't afford to stub their toe too much. And as he pointed out, they don't play great RPI teams down the stretch, so they can't afford to be losing to inferior teams. Let's update what's going on. Speaking of Coastal, playing at Charleston Southern, they're up 2-0. Coastal is 2-0, bottom of the second. Winthrop and Longwood scoreless in the first. And let's see, other state games tonight. Upstate is playing North Florida. Give you that score in just a second. Well, they haven't started yet, or they're just underway. No score posted there. Around the Southern Conference, Samford leading the Citadel 2-1, top of the fifth. And it's East Tennessee over Wofford 4-1, bottom of the fourth. VMI beating Furman 10-6, top of ninth, up in Lexington, Virginia. Around the SEC, got to keep an eye on Florida Vanderbilt. If you're a Gamecock fan, two teams that are in hot pursuit of, Florida's tied with USC, and Vanderbilt is just a notch below USC, Florida, and Texas A&M in the race for the best record, the number one seed in the tournament. They're just underway. LSU, Tennessee, 1-1 in the fourth. Mississippi State, Auburn, scoreless in the second. And Georgia and Missouri, they're in a delay out in Missouri, so no score in that one. And around the ACC tonight, let's take a look at what's happening there. Let's see here. ACC, where are you? On my scoreboard. Hang in there with me. I'm getting to it. Computer's acting funny. Always blame the computer when there's a delay. Here we go. Louisville leading NC State 1-0. Good matchup, good series there. Wake Forest. Wake Forest has gotten red hot, playing their way into the tournament. 12-3 over Virginia Tech in the sixth. Duke is beating Florida State in the sixth, 5-2. Notre Dame and North Carolina scoreless in the third. Virginia beating Georgia Tech 4-2 in the fifth. And Miami is leading Pittsburgh 3-1 in the second. So you're up to date on the college scores. Not even having looked at a scoreboard in the major leagues, K-Mac, I'm just going to guess that the Braves are losing. Of course, they might not be playing yet since they're out in Kansas City.
Yeah, they're not playing yet, so they're not losing yet. Then again, they might be at a stage now where they give up a run in the pregame.
Yeah.
But they don't start until 8:15.
All right, we'll be right back.
Well, Corn, I mean, I sound like a broken record. The Gamecocks, once again, a leadoff single. This time, Gene Cone got it. I told you about John Jones striking out there pitches, but Cone still made it to second base. It was standing there with 2 outs, and Dom Thompson-Williams struck out. So they've had 2 out of the 3 innings where they've struck out with runners in scoring position. They had a guy gunned down at the plate last inning. So missed opportunities early for the Gamecocks, still scoreless, a pitcher's duel so far.
Yeah. In fact, A&M just got their first hit in the 4th inning. So they have a runner on first with 1 out against Clark Schmidt. So the missed opportunities against a terrific offensive team. Schmidt can only do so much for so long. You don't expect him to shut out Texas A&M, but then again, you don't expect South Carolina not to score some runs. And the missed opportunities, they may rue those a little bit later on tonight in looking back at this game. Clemson is still up on Georgia Southern, 3-1. They're in the top of the 4th, playing down in Statesboro. Charlie Barnes on the mound for the Tigers. He's given up 4 hits and 1 run thus far. He has stranded 4. The Tigers have 3 hits and 3 runs, but of course the big hit, the 3-run Okie Dokie by Chris Okie. Did you update the players, K-Mac?
Now, did they get some rain? Because Jason Dade only played 8 holes at 6:30.
Let me see here. They're playing now. They're playing now. He's 14 under through the 14th hole today. 5 under on his round. 14 under for the tournament. My goodness. He's tearing it up. Shane Lowry shot a 68. He's 11 under. Jonas Blixt, a 67. He's at 10 under, along with Alex Cheka, who had a 67, and Cameron Tringali had a 69. He's at 10 under. Ridiculously low scores here for this course, 2 rounds in. Rory had a 64 today, so he's at 8 under. He's very much in the hunt. But then again, the way Jason Day's going, he's 8 under McIlroy, but he could be 10 shots back by the end of the day. We'll check some of the local scores here as well in just a moment, see how some of the familiar names are doing. But the course apparently is still playing pretty soft, and the wind, not having watched any of it today, the wind must not have kicked in as they thought it might today. Maybe over the weekend it will. Let's see. Bill McGirt had a 65 today, 7 under. Who else? Bill Haas on the course. He's at 6 under. And Bubba's at 4 under after a 71. Dustin Johnson's at 4 under after a 70. Jordan Spieth on the course at -1 K-Max. So should be a very exciting weekend at the Players.
Corn, you have yourself a good weekend there in Atlanta.
We shall do it. You enjoy the baseball. Thank you, Carson, for a great job. Everybody have a great weekend. We'll see you Monday night right here on Sports Talk.